Committee, my name is Paul Imhoff, and I'm the superintendent of the Upper Arlington School District here in Columbus, Ohio. I also have the honor of serving as the chair of the Alliance for High Quality Education, a consortium of 65 school districts located throughout the state of Ohio. Today I'm speaking only on behalf of the Upper Arlington School District, our Board of Education, and our nearly 6,000 students and staff. I stand in support of the Common Core standards for math and English language arts. These standards hold our students to a higher level of performance than previous student standards, state standards, and there's no doubt that a higher standard is good for our students, good for our schools, good for our communities, and good for the state of Ohio. Let me give you an example that comes from one of our 5th grade math teachers in Upper Arlington, and I quote, "Students have stopped asking, why do we need to learn this? The answer, because the progression of instruction naturally guides them to make connections and find relationships in the number system. They find value in what is learned and understand how to apply that knowledge to multiple facets throughout the year in and out of the math classroom. They do the math and use the math in their day-to-day lives." End quote. We can no longer be satisfied with teaching students basic facts and formulas that can be Googled in a matter of seconds. We must also teach them how to develop the critical thinking and collaboration skills that enable us to create things like Google. The professional world has new standards for its workers. We need new and higher standards for our students. The educator in me must also share that while standards are critical, they are just standards. They are not a curriculum. They are not a mandate of how to teach. Upper Arlington is a district known for innovation. Our teachers have developed instructional delivery methods and assessments that are now used across the nation. Nothing about these standards will limit our freedom to innovate. Nothing about these standards will limit our creativity. Nothing about these new standards will limit our ability to provide an education that matches or exceeds the expectations of our community. These standards simply provide us with a stronger foundation for our work. Whatever new standards are enacted, it takes time, a lot of time, for educators to translate those standards into a meaningful curriculum for the students in our communities. Since standards are our foundation, whenever you replace one, you must rebuild the educational product. That takes teacher time. Time when teachers are out of classrooms and not with their students. It also costs money. Money that most districts just don't have. Common Core standards provide educators with a stronger foundation than ever before, and every district in Ohio has invested years of time building its own educational product based upon these foundations. Why start over? As a superintendent, my most important role is to advocate for students. If this proposed legislation is passed, our current 8th graders will have Common Core standards this year, Massachusetts standards for 2 years, and new yet-to-be-developed Ohio standards for grades 11 and 12 of their high school career. 3 sets of standards in 5 years. 5 years in which teachers and other dedicated professional educators must scramble to build a new educational product at the same time they are attempting to teach it. That's a lot like building a plane while you're flying it. It's not what we want for any child. It doesn't make sense, and it isn't good for students. College and workplace are more competitive than ever before. Our students are competing globally for the best jobs. They need competent instruction based upon a solid, stable foundation. The Common Core provides that. You've heard a lot of testimony regarding this legislation in recent weeks, how the Common Core standards were crafted over an extended period of time after painfully detailed research and extensive input from educators, business leaders, elected officials, and the public at large. How it was done under the direction of a consortium of governors and top state education officials from both sides of the aisle. How these standards are a response to a regrettable trend toward mediocrity in the academic performance of U.S. students compared with those of other developed nations. They are not a result of any federal mandate, and they do not dictate curriculum, instructional models, or assessments. These standards do not infringe on local control of education. These standards strengthen our instruction. They strengthen the foundation we can provide students as they leave our schools and transition to college and career. Today, more than 1/3 of Ohio's high school graduates who want to go on to college require remedial courses before they can enroll in college-level courses. Throughout our recent recession, when Ohio unemployment soared, Thousands upon thousands of jobs went unfilled because Ohio employers were unable to find qualified candidates. Too many of Ohio's graduates are not prepared for either college or the workplace. A few years ago, Ohio, like 45 other states, adopted the provisions of the Common Core because the standards it contained provided the challenges and motivations needed to prepare our students and demanded a level of quality education that would again match those of other leading nations around the globe. Those Common Core standards have not changed. Only the rhetoric has changed. Conscientious educators throughout the state have spent the intervening years preparing to provide Ohio's youth the best opportunity for a quality education that they have ever had. These educators have embraced the standards as comprehensive, challenging, and motivating. More experienced educators wish these standards had been available to guide their own children's education. The younger ones are pleased that they will be available now. We ask now that you not let this preparation go to waste, that you not start a merry-go-round of constantly changing educational goals and objectives, that you not let well-meaning but misguided voices deter you from implementing the sound decision Ohio made a few years ago, a decision that holds so much promise for the future of our children. These standards are good for our children, and as educators, taxpayers, and parents, we believe we should do that which best serves them. They should not become collateral damage in a misguided, misinformed political tug-of-war. Thank you for
your testimony, Mr. Imhoff. Representative Blanda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Superintendent, for being here today and for your testimony. Where do you think your parents in your schools are standing? I will tell you that I have not talked with a single parent who supports anything that you said today.
Mr. Chair and Representative, I would tell you that I would think most of our parents are not well informed about Common Core. There are some who are concerned. I think there are a higher number who want a high standard for their students. In Upper Arlington, we always look at the standards as a floor, not a ceiling, and we are expected to exceed those. And our community has great confidence that we take the standards and then we put together a curriculum that meets the needs of our students in Upper Arlington. And I believe that work's going on around the state because the decisions about curriculum are local decisions.
Follow-up, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Well, your statement that you believe that most parents are not informed about the standards, what do you plan to do as superintendent to, number one, educate those that you claim are uninformed, and two, how do you plan to address the concerns that have been raised by your parents about these standards?
Mr. Chair and Representative, we actually plan evening meetings for parents so they can understand what are the standards and what is the curriculum in the Upper Arlington schools and what is actually happening in their child's classroom to give them an opportunity to have a voice in that process. As you know, in House Bill 487, it actually requires that parents are a part of that process. That is something that we've done for decades in Upper Arlington and in many schools around the state. And so this is an ongoing process. Parents are always a part of what's going on in the education of their children, and that's not changed with Common Core.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Representative Asher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, good morning. Thank you for being here this morning, Superintendent. Just a couple questions. We keep hearing that Common Core takes away local control by dictating curriculum and textbooks and assessments. Can you comment on that?
Mr. Chair and Representative, again, these are a standard. We have had standards in the state of Ohio for some time. And the standards are then translated into a curriculum that is developed at the local level, taught at the local level. We determine how to take the standards and then to turn that into a curriculum. We determine what happens in the classroom, how it's taught, what are the books that are read. So quite frankly, I do not understand the issue about local control because I feel that we do have local control when it comes to developing a curriculum based upon state standards.
Follow-up.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, so often we hear about, our educators that they're crunched for time. And I know they are because my in-laws are crunched for time because of preparation and all the things that they have to do. Tell me, what kind of time and resources are required to implement Common Core? above and beyond what they already do.
Mr. Chair and Representative, we have spent a great deal of time, and we spend a great deal of time every time we have new standards in preparing a new curriculum to meet the standards. And so it is time that teachers are out of classroom. It is time selecting materials that will best teach our curriculum. And then it's time actually training our staff and working together to make sure that we're doing everything we can in order to teach the curriculum that's been approved by our Board of Education. So it takes a lot of time. Every time we change standards, it takes a lot of time, which is one of our concerns. If we have these standards, and then the Massachusetts standards for 2 years, and then a new set of state standards for 2 more years, that is an immense amount of time that our teachers are going to be out of the classroom, away from students. And I'm very concerned about its impact on students.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thanks for your testimony today. We appreciate it.